we hold people that we admire to like a higher regard, when really we're all human. We all take shits.
Yeah, we all poop.
We all fart. I mean, and that's a fact. Like,
Michelle Obama poops.
Yeah, like even though nobody talks about it.
What up? I'm Bianca.
And I'm Adrianne.
And we're two independent women living in New York City going through hella stuff.
And that's why we're here, to share our experiences with you, and hopefully you can learn something from it.
Or you can just laugh with us.
And on today's episode of Women in the Wild,
what are we talking about?
We are talking about imposter syndrome and everything that comes under that. So when it comes to our careers, and just like what it is and our personal experiences about it and what we can do to maintain like all the nice achievements and celebrate those things. Yeah.
Okay.
That's basically it.
Huge topic. Episode. Yeah.
Yes.
Huge topic for, I think, both of us.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why we thought it was relevant to talk about it is because it basically means when you don't feel like you have what you deserve, or like you're not worthy of it. And the root causes from it come from so many things, like insecurity, the way you were raised, the people you've been surrounded with, self-judgment.
Mm-hmm.
And I've experienced it like almost my whole life. How about you?
Yeah, and then I'll just add to like your definition of it. I guess we're also so used to, growing as children, like growing up, we're so used to kind of feeling like we're unique and different with our own insecurities, anything really negative that affects us internally. And I guess like sometimes we forget, and that's why this becomes a thing about imposter syndrome, is that everyone's got their own insecurities. And we'll go more into it, but basically, it's just being able to kind of, how do you describe it? Like maintain like your own personal weaknesses, and also know that other people also have their own weaknesses. Like no one's perfect, even though they seem like they're more successful than you. Yeah, it's kind of just being able to understand that everyone's got flaws, and sometimes we forget that.
Mm-hmm. It's something people definitely experience a lot when they work in companies or like in big teams, because it's very easy for you to compare yourself to like your peers, and usually people start in a company in the lower level, so you're looking at all these people that are above you, and if even sometimes when you get a promotion, you feel like you're not as good as the person that had that position before, things like that, where you're just like, am I even like good enough to be here? And I think imposter syndrome comes especially when you are in that position that is, let's say, elevated, and you've been there for a while, and you almost feel like you're in disguise, like you're wearing a mask the whole time, but in like deep down you're like not even supposed to be there.
Mm-hmm.
I think I might be wrong, but I think that happens a lot with creatives.
Yeah.
Like specifically, because I think creativity is so subjective. Yeah, that when you're like, let's say you're like known as the best wedding photographer, Adrianne, maybe you're like, I'm just taking pictures, like I don't know why I'm like this popular. But when other people see your work, you probably have a talent, or like a specific way that you take your photos that you're not even noticing. So when people tell you like, oh my god, I love your style, you're even like, what is my style? Like in those moments is when you feel imposter syndrome the most. And I've been there, like when people tell me like they love my edits, I'm like, I don't see how my edits are any more special than like any other person you pay. So it's weird with creatives, because sometimes it's like other people can easily see things in your work that you don't necessarily see. So you almost feel like I better like just agree with them instead of like tell them the truth, which is like I probably don't see what they're saying, but that's art. In the end, like people see art differently.
Yeah, you can't quantify it. There's no tangible straight set answer for like what you perceive or interpret art to be. And that's the moment of like, what is it, cliche, like beauty is in the eye of the beholder kind of thing. So there's nothing really, no basis for us to really kind of figure out how successful we are in the creative field. Whereas like in corporate, you kind of have a ladder to climb and things like that.
It's not, with art, there are not specific steps.
Exactly. There's
or
no
like specific classes that you took. Like let's say for economy and things like that, like you can just take a class to like know how to figure out this formula or whatever. With in the creative field, it's not as black and white as that. It's more empirical almost. So it's harder to like pinpoint what are the things that make you better than someone else.
I can talk about something personal.
Please.
In the career that I have, which is a wedding photographer. And I guess we're filming this in June, so we're kind of like through a pandemic, and usually this would be my busiest season for weddings because June is wedding season. And sometimes like before a wedding season happens, I'm usually traveling or doing other administrative things, not really shooting. So when I get back into it, and I haven't really been shooting for over a month or even 2 months, and then I get back into the season, the first few weddings always make me anxious. And it's not that because I don't know what I'm doing, but I just feel like, oh, this is like, what if they don't enjoy my pictures? I mean, weddings are super high pressure because this moment will only happen once. Like if you miss something, that's it. You have to entrust also your team and handle a bunch of other personalities and things like that. And so sometimes I feel like I'm inadequate with my own job, and I own my own company. I don't work for anybody else. So I think I'm also just harder on myself because I work for my own company. But then I forget why am I even nervous? It could be one of two things. One is that I didn't take the initiative during the off season to be proactive in not making my skills rusty, so I'm still shooting, still conceptualizing things, and remaining creative. And so like I guess at that point it's like up to you or yourself to kind of figure out, oh, this is what I need to do for myself so that I won't feel like I'm an imposter. So some people, it would either really be taking like a workshop or something, or to take like a certificate course to kind of just be credible in those situations. And I've even put myself in situations where I felt inadequate, and I ended up paying money for a class, like a digital marketing class, for example. And I felt like I got nothing out of that class because it's like, oh, I've actually been doing this. I've been doing like email campaigns that have gotten really good click rates and things like that. Or like I've shot multiple weddings and I've delivered albums that clients are super happy about, and yet I go in anxious. Like I don't understand that.
Like it took you to pay for an expensive class to realize that you have been doing everything right all along.
Yes, exactly. Which is ridiculous. So it's like, how then do we figure out like a way to get out of it? And to think I've been doing this for 10 years. I've been a wedding photographer for 10 years, and sometimes I forget that. And I guess why we're also talking about this is whenever I take a picture of you, and then that gets brought up, that it's like, oh yeah, I just take a picture of you in like less than a minute. It takes me 3 shots, and then we get the money shot. And sometimes it's like moments like that, it's like, oh, I do know what I'm doing, not even kind of.
Yeah.
And so that's why we're doing this episode, because we're hype each other up.
And I think a big point to everything that you're bringing is that everything that you just said is that I think the reason why we have imposter syndrome is because we are very hard on ourselves, and like no one knows our flaws more than ourselves.
Yeah.
So of course we're like something super stupid. Well, let's say for example, I don't know, you are trying to impress someone by cooking a dinner for them, and you know how badly you have failed at cooking, like forever. Even if that meal that you prepare for that one person was amazing and they enjoyed it, you would still feel like, yeah, but I'm still a bad cook, because you know all the other times that you have failed, but only you know that. So of course you're just being like your own worst critic. Whereas in the eye of this person that you just cooked this meal for, they'd be like, this person, Adrian, is amazing at cooking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like imposter syndrome has a lot to do with like how much we know ourselves and
Mhm.
how much we know the times that we have failed, and like nobody else knows that but us.
Exactly.
So we're just like, yeah, even though I did this right, I know deep down I'm actually terrible, sort of a thing, which is ridiculous because everyone goes through that same process, and we just forget that other people are also not perfect, and other people that we look up to or that are like role models or are super successful, they probably also went through like those 8 times that they cooked and it sucked. You know what I mean? But they just don't talk about it.
Or they don't show it. I guess also imposter syndrome, if you want to get super technical about it, is like we know ourselves internally, but we don't know what other people, like we only know ourselves internally. But when it comes to meeting other people, we know them externally.
Yeah.
And only how much they're willing to let you in.
Exactly.
So everything's like an edited picture, and it is helping absolutely no one, especially ourselves, that like we hold people that we admire to like a higher regard, when really we're all human. We all take shits.
Yeah. We all poop.
We all fart. I mean, and that's a fact. Like
Michelle Obama poops.
Yeah, like even though nobody talks about it, that's like that's just human nature.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we just have to kind of figure out and keep ourselves aware that no one is perfect, and that the only person stopping yourself from feeling successful and actually acting on being passionate about your success is imposter syndrome. Like, it's almost impossible to kind of feel like you can achieve the same things these people have achieved, especially if you look at age, like factors like age, gender, race, and all these other things, education. You know, it really depends. So sometimes you feel like, oh, like they went to Harvard, so they can go get a job at Google. But that's not the case. I think it's also like just how widely we also want to perceive our limitations. Because then, I mean, like if you limit yourself, then what are you really going to achieve? If you're going to say like, oh, that person already achieved it, so then I can't do it, then whose fault is that?
True.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add that I think in this time, also social media amplifies imposter syndrome, because the same thing we said, like we're only seeing people for what they show, which is like a super edited picture, like you said, or like people love just putting out all their good stuff about them on social, and sometimes you find these feeds that are like literally picture perfect, like you keep going and going, and it's all like at the beach, perfect body, in like different cities and whatever, and like you don't even think about like, has this person ever had a bad day? Because it looks like they don't. It looks like they live a perfect life. So then you look at yourself and you're like, dang, I suck. But in reality, it's like they're only showing you what they want to show you. But of course, that person goes through like horrible stuff too. So it's very not helpful when you're like too invested in social media and you choose to believe what you see there, because it's not real.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, we're guilty of it. Like, I even just filters alone, like even little things like that can give you like fragments of insecurity, and that's where you, I guess for me at least personally, that's when I'm like, okay, it's time to detox from social media. Time to journal a little bit and look inside myself. It's like, why do I feel this way? And that's usually the case. So now the thing that I do is before a wedding, I'll make sure to take my gear out. I'll take a photo. I'll even do like not even a wedding, but like just a shoot, just to kind of wet my toes a little bit before a season.
Practice.
To just, and so that I can also assure myself, because I mean, I'm editing my own work. I'm looking over the photos and all these things. So it's like, it's good to see that, oh, okay, I can do this. And the only person who can really validate that is myself.
Yeah.
Especially after 10 years.
Yeah. The other thing is, like, I think with women, it's even worse, because since we're little, we are taught that women have to be a certain way. And that way is, like, very polished. Like, you have to always look like this. You have to, like, shave your legs and, like, like be a princess, and like women don't fart, and all this stuff that it's also unrealistic.
Be a lady.
Yeah, it's very unrealistic. So you grow up feeling like you're an imposter woman almost. It's like, wait, am I like girly enough to even be like a woman? You know, as little kid, like before I was an adult with a adult mind, I had moments in my teenage years where I was like, I'm not like that girly way, and like I felt bad about it, you know, because we're taught that we have to be a certain way that is not almost not even human. It's crazy. It's so like picture perfect, like a Disney character.
Yeah.
So I think that's why in women it's even stronger sometimes, because there's never a moment where we're validated for being just us. At least like when I was growing up, that's how it was. My parents now are a little better about that. I don't know.
Yeah. And I guess, I don't know, like what else can we...
Well, I had another thing.
Go for it.
Also with imposter syndrome, sometimes I remind myself like there is nobody in this world that is 100% confident.
No one.
There is no one. Like you can think of freaking...
Say Michelle Obama again.
I was gonna say that, but I'm like trying to think of another person.
Oprah.
Like even Oprah has bad moments, right? So, and if I think like, is there a person? Let's imagine hypothetically, there's a person that is 100% confident.
Ariana
At that
Grande?
point, at that point, I don't think that's even a good thing. Like being 100% confident is not good anyway, because there's no growth there. Also, like you're probably narcissistic if you're like that confident. Like it can turn into a negative thing, to be honest. So never strive for that really, because there's no growth. So like even if you were to reach that point, you would still not be perfect, because being 100% confident is not a good thing. That's not life.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, that definitely makes sense. I think the way I can add to that too, or like kind of give them a better, or like a whole picture, is that like when I guess the adverse of that is that if we also feel like, oh, I'm the only one that has this problem, I'm the only one that is going through this, and so I can't do it. And it's like, I have these problems, blah, blah, blah. I have all these barriers in my head, so then therefore I'm not able to do it. This person has all the possible like things that they need to do it, and that's why they were able to achieve it. And that's not really necessarily the case. And sometimes when we self-degradate or even make ourselves feel less than, and we sometimes do that because that's our excuse during imposter syndrome, is like, oh, I'm not able to achieve this because this person has money.
Right.
Or this person has the resources, or this person got an education, so therefore, or this person has connections, so they can achieve this and so. And sometimes that's not the case, or sometimes we end up being negative, that it's like, oh, I won't be able to do this.
Maybe it's an excuse for not doing it.
Yeah. And
a lot of the time.
It could be an excuse, and then sometimes you're just gaslit into thinking that you're just not good enough. So it could also go both ways. But for that example, when we tend to like, or at least when I tend to feel like I'm not good enough, then I isolate myself. And I put all this pressure on myself, like, oh, I'm doing everything right. Why am I still not good enough as this person? Oh, is it because they have 10,000 followers? Is it because they have 20,000 followers? Is it because they have 100,000 followers? How many views did they get? It gets to that numbers game, especially with social media when you brought it up. But it's like, oh, then we kind of end up going through these things of like doubt, insecurities, and that's all about imposter syndrome. And once you kind of get that reined in together and you feel secure, like what you were saying, then you don't really need like, and then you kind of have this more holistic view of like what humans are. And it goes back to the whole thing that everyone is flawed. And everyone has points of like insecurity. We are just not there to see it.
So what do you suggest for people that are going through imposter syndrome? Like, I guess it's a feeling. So when it comes to your head, you can just like think about it. You know, if you have to feel bad for a few minutes or days, then feel bad. but like recognize that it's not true, right?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, that it's you kind of just end up having to validate yourself. I mean, there are other external ways that you can seek things like that, but imposter syndrome is kind of, I think, more internal, at least in my opinion. So we have to accept the majority of like what we feel and like deal with that so that we can be aware that everyone has shameful thoughts. Like if you've already kind of thought of something messed up in your head, imagine somebody saying something messed up out loud. That's like the edited version because they can even say it out loud. In your head, there's something much, 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 much worse.
Yeah.
And everyone's got that. And sometimes we just have to be aware that, oh, I need to unlearn this habit that I learned as a kid, because this comes from like old habits as a childhood of like, oh, your parent is super different from me and they're responsible and they're like successful and responsible. Like they have a house, they tell me what to do, they provide me all these things, give me toys. Cool. But then they're boring. That's how kids see parents, right? Oh, you're so boring, but like successful, but we're so different. And so we have to unlearn that habit that it's like, oh, they're different even though they're successful. But actually, no. Like at one point, our parents were also kids. Our age, kids, trying to like figure things out too. So it's kind of just that example of
being aware of it is really how you can overcome it. So when those thoughts creep into your head, you're like, I'm experiencing imposter syndrome, and I'm gonna, think about it. Sometimes that leads to like you making positive changes in your life, like you said, that led you to like practice more on your photography on your time off, and those are like the good things that can come out of it. Just don't let it like affect you, or like don't let it get ingrained into your head where you like end up believing it's true, because it's not. Everyone went through that. Everyone is flawed. Everyone still has to work to get to where they're at. And if you earn the position, it's probably because you deserve it, and it's probably because you have the skills or have the education or whatever it is to be there. So yeah, that's all.
Yeah, I think it's also putting people that we admire in a really humble position, that it's like we all start the day waking up, sleep on a bed, like we all end up on the ground kind of thing. And it's like, okay, well, I put it here, like if we believe that our like people around us could possibly like relate to us, then we're more open also, and like less likely to even judge other people, because it's like, oh, you're insecure too, we have something in common already.
That's what I was saying with the whole 100% confidence. Like, that's not even good. Like, if anyone ever gets there, like, that's not even a good place to be, because you won't relate to anyone in the world. You will have no room for growth. You will kind of get bored with your life, maybe.
And you'll just be isolated.
Also, I thought about rejection too. Like, when people get rejected, and I'm talking about myself, really, there's always that moment where you're like, oh, I suck, this is why they rejected me, and this is why like everyone rejects me, and blah blah blah, and like it's so easy for you to get consumed by it. But literally everyone in the history of the world has been rejected, and if anyone hasn't, that phrase where like, if everyone likes you, there must be something wrong. That's what I think about. Like, you know what, it's fine, because if everyone liked me, that probably means I like have no backbone, no personality, like nothing that makes me unique. I'm just like a generic piece of niceness, and I don't want to be that either. So you know what? Reject me. I'll go on. Like, there's better people that will love me. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it's like imposter syndrome. If you want to face it properly, a lot of good things can come out of it. Like, and a lot of empowerment can come out of it, which is like, it's okay that I'm not liked, or it's okay that I think I'm inadequate, or that I could improve on this and that, because that's where growth starts usually.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. And
I think we should talk about ourselves too.
Yeah. I put here, like, I guess one other way too is like, if you're intimidated by someone or like you admire them, get into their mind and just kind of even explore like what they do. Let's say Casey Neistat, like he's a daily vlogger, and you think that you know every aspect of his life
But yeah.
because he daily vlogs, and even that's super
He edits
edited.
that.
Who condenses their life in 5 minutes, 10 minutes? No one.
You don't
For,
know
like,
the
a
thoughts
day.
that go through his head.
Exactly. And he
Every
wakes
day.
up at like 5 in the morning, ends his day at 11 or something, or even later. And so it's really just not a full picture. And I think, yeah, in order, like, we kind of just have to realize that, like, at the end of the day, everyone's pretty average.
And everyone's a little bit messed up.
Exactly.
Except you, like, had a white picket fence family that raised you in, like, the most perfect way, you know? And that's kind of boring, too. But, like, I don't want to...
As
no
unique
shame
as we
on...
all are.
Yeah, no shame to those people, but, like, the more, like, perfect you look, it's almost like the less unique you are.
Exactly. That's it.
So...
yeah. As unique as we
don't
are,
try
we
to be
still...
perfect.
Yeah, we still have our fucking flaws.
So, I think,
what is your... You said you wanted to talk about personal experiences?
Yeah, but I think we could even talk, like, collectively, you and I. Even starting this podcast is a huge example. Like, we had never done a podcast before. I had never even done a vlog before, like a proper vlog. I had, though, like, for myself. Like, I have so many vlogs in my computer. Like, as a teenager, I used to do it for fun, but, like, not show anyone. So, like, the fact that we did this for the first time as an official thing that we're going to put out there into the world, and we didn't really do a lot of preparation. Like, we didn't take a course or anything like that. We just kind of went for it. That's a perfect example because I know at first, and this is also why we took so long to launch it. At first, we were, like, super insecure to, like, let this out to the world and, like, for people to actually see us talk, and we thought, like, we were weird and, like, we sounded weird on camera and stuff like that.
And also the topics that we covered were about being vulnerable. I mean, a lot of the stories are super personal too, so I think putting that out there for people to hear and dissect and learn from.
And also the fact that our equipment isn't the best yet. Like, we're using these lav mics instead of, like, the proper gear that everyone has in their podcast. Like, there were so many reasons we felt inadequate.
Yeah, we didn't even have a big Instagram vlog. Like, we usually, the step into getting into a podcast or launching a podcast is when you already have a large audience online, like on Instagram or YouTube, and then it's like, okay, long form content is a podcast because you already have that audience. We did it the opposite way because we felt like this would be the best way to really show off and just not be imposters anymore, because we're actually very capable. And when we even rewatch some of the episodes,
we were like, oh my god, I actually love this. And like we would play the episodes, like, in the background when we were hanging out, and we're like, that's such a, like, I would actually listen to this. Like, it's not only because it's us, like, we were liking the content that we were creating, and then that's why we felt a little better about it, and then we finally launched it. And to this day, like the aftermath of us launching it, we have seen so many people that like it, like, so much positive feedback. And it's like, you know what, we shouldn't have doubted ourselves that much. Like, we actually do have a lot to offer and a lot of good advice to tell people and great stories that are entertaining. Like, it's not about the equipment, it's about, like, we're putting our personalities too in display, which I think is more than enough, and I think that's what we're doing well.
Yeah, even the week that we kind of were silent to give space for Black Lives Matter and to give to amplify Black voices, we took a week off to, you know, give way for that. And there were actually some subscribers of ours that reached out, and it's like they were more on top of it than we were. They were saying, "Where's the episode?"
Yeah,
and we're like, "Yeah, we're muted for Black Lives Matter." So it's kind of cool that people are actually waiting for our content to be released when we didn't even think anything would come out of it, really.
Yeah. So again, imposter syndrome. We all go through it, and it's just doubt and insecurity, but at the end of the day, you kind of have to trust yourself and your talent and, like, the work you put into your projects.
Yeah. And that way nothing really prevents you from, you know, being as successful as the people that you do admire, because they started from somewhere.
Everyone started this way, like just doing it. Just
exactly.
doing it.
Just doing it. Nike has it right. So yeah, can you tell me about a personal experience, like maybe at work or career or anything really?
A personal experience I could mention is when I went to a freaking feature film set to work for the camera department, and I was still in college. So you can, like, major imposter syndrome to the highest power, definitely. I was like, I'm just a college kid. Why am I here? Like, it was an actual film set with like a budget and like a crew that was super professional, all from unions. Meanwhile, I haven't even graduated, but I was there because a producer who was part of our film club, she kind of offered the opportunity and to the club, and out of the people that showed interest, she kind of chose the ones that she felt were gonna do a good job, and it was me and this other guy. And we actually did a great job, such a good job on set that we ended up getting paid. Like, it wasn't even gonna be a paid thing, but they were like, no, we'll actually pay you as camera PA, and the other one was key PA. And like, I made so many great friendships there and good connections that to this day I have worked again with. So it was like, I felt so welcome, and that was such a good experience, and everyone like respected me so much that I ended up learning from that experience, like, I did actually deserve to be there all along. I don't know why I doubted myself so much in the beginning, because they, like, people got back, like, after that was over, the same people from that set to this day still reach out when they have projects and stuff like that. Like, they want to work again with me, and it's like, I can't believe I ever thought I wasn't gonna be good enough, because these people ended up loving me. So that's like a small example that I can think of. And to think that I'm, Dominican, and I came here just for college, and that was, I think, my junior year, also amplified the imposter syndrome, because it's like, all of a sudden I'm in a feature film set in New York, like, when in reality I'm just a girl from the Dominican Republic,
But you're not just a girl from DR.
Yeah, it was cool. It was a great learning experience, both for my career, but also for me to see like how far I can come. Yeah, what I'm capable of.
Nice. Yeah.
How are you?
Me? Okay, so also kind of almost straight, not really straight out of college. I mean, because after college, I worked at a tech company in their sales and marketing department. And then 2 years after, I quit my job to start my own company and to do wedding photography and event photography full time. And when I quit my job in July, my family, some friends, mostly family, and even some like colleagues that I worked with, or people that I would sometimes like work with over freelance and things like that, people in the same industry would be like, oh, is it now's the time to really quit your job? All these things.
There's always people like that.
There's always people like that. I even was like that, like to myself, to you even, like because of the pandemic and all that. Because remember, I told you, I was like, don't quit your job, save the money. There are many different, I guess, scenarios in which you can approach it. But at the time, I was like, okay, I have my savings, I have all of these things set up. Why not? I'm young. Also, age, I told you, like, it depends also. Like, there's a lot of factors. I felt like at the time when I started this company in 2018, I had the financial resources to do it. I had the education to do it because I graduated with a business degree. And then I've been shooting weddings for already, at that point, 8 years. So I was like, okay, well, it's pretty easy to do. Not easy, but I mean, there are resources. Like if you were to start a small business, I think New York would be a good place, or like a big city would be a great place to start, because I was able to network with people. And before I quit my job, I was already putting in a lot of the work. I had already gathered enough clients to keep me afloat for the next couple of months while I really went full time with my own business. And family would always be like, oh, we're so nervous for you. That family. What about money? Or are you sure? They were so nervous. And it was kind of nice. It's like, you know what? Yeah, doubt me. Do it. Fuel me.
Yeah.
Like, sure, do it. And so it was only like maybe a year into it where there I started to do the classes and kind of spread myself out too thin that I like started to doubt myself because at the time I was super headstrong in my own head that it's like, yes, I can do this. And once I started to get into the industry and let other people's opinions cloud my own head, it got harder to really focus on like what I wanted because I was being pulled every which way. Or like I just started to doubt myself that it's like, oh, wedding photography will not be able to keep me afloat, so let me figure out something else. And at the time I was like, oh, I'm probably not good enough to do weddings because all these other photographers online have so much better work and content.
There's always gonna be people that are better.
Exactly. And so now I just use that as like fuel. That it's like, oh, you're my inspiration rather than competition.
Perfect.
And also I'm just gonna keep learning. And yeah, stagnation is your enemy, basically.
Yeah.
When it comes to imposter syndrome, because while you're learning and you're like not making like you're keeping yourself a well-oiled human being, then you can actually achieve all these things. And then I guess the next part is like get a friend to hype you up.
That's true. You do need support. You need your support system to remind you everything that you've done, because it's so easy for us to like just self-deprecate and like judge ourselves.
Yeah. So I joined a women in business group, and then I've joined other like Facebook groups. There are so many free resources out there that you forget. Like even with New York, you can start a small business and you can even meet and schedule yourself with a person and they'll walk you through the entire process of getting your LLC up and started and setting up a business bank account. Like all of these resources were free. So
which one do you use?
I use LegalZoom for hours.
No, I said for our audience who might be interested in looking
starting
for that
business.
help. Yeah.
So you can actually go to sba.gov, and they're an like Small Business Administration. There are multiple branches, and usually they're located in schools. So like I actually got to go to Hunter. It was Hunter College, and there's also one in Baruch College. And you can set up an appointment with someone who is in like the business administration department, and they'll help you come up with a comprehensive business plan. And comprehensive business plans will kind of give you an idea, okay, is this business feasible? Is it worth getting a loan or putting in money or crowdfunding? Because there are so many options that I wish I knew about when I was starting out. And that's it. Like the information is there if you look for it.
Yeah, you gotta help yourself too. Like sometimes imposter syndrome might come with some truth to it, but it's like to kind of alert you and push you towards the right direction.
Yes.
So act upon it whenever you feel it. Like in your case, I think that's awesome that you found a Facebook group for women in business, because sometimes like friends aren't a great support system. Like as much as they love you, like. Some people just
don't... Or they love you too much, it's biased.
They love you too much, it's biased. And just like, you can't blame them, because not everyone knows how to show the exact support that you need. Like maybe they support you in telling you like, oh yeah, you're great. But maybe the kind of support that you need is like someone who inspires you, like, and you can't just rely on the small amount of people or like your close group of friends to like know everything that you will need.
Exactly.
So
especially if your business is super niche. Yeah. Not all of my friends are wedding photographers. 0 of my friends are wedding photographers.
Exactly. So you wouldn't necessarily get the support that you need. Like they won't be able to give you the proper advice and stuff like that. So reach out to like other platforms. Like we live in it's 2020. There's like you can meet anyone through social media. Yeah. And there's so many Facebook groups and Instagram pages and Twitter threads, like just look, and meetups like meetup.com.
Yeah. And don't be intimidated. I think that's where we also end up holding ourselves back. I feel like I end up intimidating myself so much. Like if I go to a workshop, I'll go like, I don't want to be here. I don't know how to use lights. I don't know how to use strobes. I don't even know how to set up a stand sometimes.
Not true.
No, it's not true. But there's like today. I didn't even know how to put a AA battery inside our microphone.
It's just a normal mistake.
Exactly. But sometimes if we focus on that, then it's like, oh my God, I didn't
Yeah.
know how to put a battery in the camera. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, you need to know what to focus your energy on too.
And then you're going to end up not going to the workshop. It's like everyone there is too good. I don't want to show my portfolio. I don't want to show my like work because there's no time to edit anything. Like everything's live.
Mm-hmm.
But putting yourself in uncomfortable situations will make you grow and
your comfort zone
learn.
Will never be a place of growth.
Exactly. Yeah, so then that's our personal stories. Before I hype you up, the best question to ask you is, in what areas lately have you felt inadequate in? Yeah, you weren't aware that I was going to ask you this question, huh?
Putting me on the spot.
Yeah, but I want to know because I want to actually be able to properly hype you up. I don't know what you're insecure about. Okay. For me, on your Instagram, you look hella hot, hella confident. Because who took your pictures?
You. I always want to work on my portfolio. Like my website is trash right now. It hasn't been updated in forever. I used to feel more insecure about my ability to like film and edit something on my own that I would like, but I just did that with the
you did. See, you don't even need me.
And I'm like I was nervous about it, but then they gave me, the company that I did this for gave me their feedback and it was awesome, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess it. But remember when I first started reading the email, I was like, oh my God, they hate it.
Okay, wait, fill in our audience.
My first thought was like, it's they hate it. It sucks.
Okay, so backstory really quick, because we talked about this in the first episode of season 2. But for those of you who didn't listen to the first episode, Bianca filmed a mini doc for a company, or it was like about a 10-minute documentary about her coronavirus experience, about moving and things like that.
And it was all by myself. Like I had to film on the go, the whole moving situation. I told the story by myself, then I brought everything to the computer and edited. So it was a very solo project.
And you submitted your first draft.
And I submitted my first draft.
You opened up the email
to the company, and then they finally got back to me yesterday. And like the first line, I just read the first sentence, and I was like so ready to have negative feedback. That
what was the first line?
I told you to shoot.
And that's what triggered you.
Yeah.
That's what triggered your imposter syndrome.
Yeah. So okay, I have to curse because this is just what the email said. It's the first sentence was, I told you to shoot the shit out of it. But I only read like, I told you to shoot, and I thought he was gonna say like, I told you to shoot this, this, and this, and you didn't, or I told you to shoot in this and this format and you didn't. But it was the opposite. Like he was cheering me on. He's like, I told you to shoot the shit out of it, and you did. And then it was like 2 paragraphs full of compliments, and I was like, wow. What was my initial reaction? Like I was ready for him to hate it.
I'm like that too when I submit a full wedding album. So like, let's say I shot a wedding, I deliver it within 3 weeks to a month from the original wedding date. And every time I'm like, oh my gosh, I hope they love the photos. I hope everything comes out. Because I usually submit, like, during a full wedding, I shoot about 3,000 to 5,000 photos, and then I give about 10% of that. I don't shoot or like call to reach a minimum or a maximum. Any moment that looks like a moment is included in the album. So sometimes I feel like, there are too many photos, or like there aren't enough photos. It always ends up being amazing, and that they share it, or like when it's somebody's birthday, the pictures come and resurface. I'm like, oh wow, I took that picture. I almost forgot that. Like I'm actually good.
Yeah.
Or there was one family reunion where I did like a same day slideshow kind of thing. And this is for my family, so this is supposed to be low pressure. They were rushing me. And then
your family's really hard on you.
They really are, but I love them for it.
Okay.
But at the time, because our family reunions are crazy, it's like 300 people. And so they were like, oh, you can't, like, they were expecting me to kind of like produce it right away. And it's like, look, your expectations are also like a little bit insane. Like, I've been doing this for so many years. Like, you're not or like even for a client who expects a fast turnaround, it's like, you're not paying me for like being fast. Like, I can do this fast because I've been doing this for 10 years, not because I have the best equipment. You know what I mean? So it's like, sometimes it's even catching that. And you don't have to, like, I don't even care to tell them because it doesn't matter to them. But even just for me to know, like, oh, yeah, I'm able to pull off a same day slideshow by myself, not because I have the best stuff, but because I know what I'm doing. You know? And that's the same for you. Like, you were even, like, doubting yourself that you can produce, like, a whole 10-minute doc. And it was amazing. I can't wait for you guys to see it.
Thank you. But I think overall, the thing that I always struggle with is the fact that I grew up like a very artsy kid. So I do like many different things. But I feel like then my talent is like I'm okay in different things instead of like I'm really good at one specific thing. And I still struggle with that today. Like, I'm good at piano, but I'm not like crazy at piano. Like, I can shoot and edit videos, but like I don't feel like I'm as good as I could be if I only focused on that. I can paint and draw, but I'm not like a painter. You know what I mean? That's always something that I deal with. That's like my
I guess
insecurity.
It's like, can I offer you an opportunity to hype yourself up? I mean, that's actually good that we talked about this diversifying happiness, and I think that coincides with that it's like, look, if you have a lot of talents, like, why would you limit yourself to one?
Yeah.
And if you really wanted to achieve something like a piano piece or like a song that you were learning, I can see you dedicating a week to it and really getting good. I mean, you showed me old videos of you on your phone and like killing it on the piano, and I never knew you could play like that. I was like, oh, you're classically trained. Like, you can actually do it and read notes and everything, so you'll pick it up. But it's just a matter of giving yourself that time. And right now you have different priorities and different projects, so that's what you're sharpening at the moment. But playing music and all the other hobbies that you had as a kid, it's like riding a bike.
Right.
You're always gonna get better.
Thank you, boo.
Sweaty.
Oh, okay. How about you? What's something you feel imposter syndrome that makes you feel imposter syndrome?
Right now, oh gosh, I don't even really know. Well, I'm launching the second company because I want to get away from wedding photography.
Right.
And also in the landscape of like the pandemic and everything moving online, I've had to really shift a lot of things. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I just feel like sometimes I don't feel adequate enough to be like a managerial level because I haven't worked in a proper company in over so long. Then I forget, like, oh, I've actually managed multiple teams across the internet already. I think at this point, I think what you're doing is already good. I don't even know what to ask of you at this point.
What do you mean?
Because you always hype me up anyway. For the sake of this episode, I don't even know.
That's true.
You've already been doing it.
Well, for the people that don't know, Adrian's the one that keeps up with our Women in the Wild podcast social media posts, and it looks incredible. And like, I get compliments on our feed all the time, and everyone like, one of the first things that people tell me is like, everything looks so professional. And I'm like, I'm just here recording and editing the episodes, but when it comes to image, it's you. So that should give you enough to feel good about yourself, because I know the company that you're launching or you're trying to launch now is for that, to for branding and to look good on social media, like for brands to have like an image and a brand basically.
Yeah.
So
a cohesive brand.
You're killing it already, because I'm telling you, the first thing people say is everything looks so good, and like, I'm like, yeah, the logo was Adrianne. I animated it, but the design was you, and like the whole feed color scheme is you, and yeah.
Yeah, it was actually.
If not me, all our fans can tell you how awesome it looks.
I guess Women in the Wild podcast has also been our passion project / baby, and it's been great. I mean, and because it's our passion project, we can really go ham on a lot of things. I'm not like pleasing a client. Our client is us. I think we collaborate really well on that, and I think that's where we should also hype each other up. This podcast wouldn't be possible without just like I guess our dynamic. I think also.
I think our skills complement each other.
Exactly, because you're more video and editing, and I'm more like social media and
branding. It's the perfect combo.
Exactly. Yeah. So with that, I think we got what we also wanted out of Women in the Wild podcast. I guess without even really trying, this was our way of proving ourselves.
Proving ourselves that we can make a really good passion project possible.
Yeah. And this is our portfolio already, because you're the one who cuts like all the lulls that, because this thing goes by so smoothly, is because Bianca edits them, and that's why you can hear our audio nice. Everything's in focus.
Yes. And it looks so good and polished thanks to you.
So we can keep hyping each other up all day.
So I think out of this episode, what we want to get to is to motivate you guys to not feel discouraged if you feel imposter syndrome, because everyone feels it, even us. And even Oprah and even Michelle Obama.
And the work really starts internally, and like being able to accept that like we have flaws, and that I'm aware that you have flaws, and that even though I feel like, oh my god, Bianca, like I can't even keep up with like your talent, it's that, oh, but I have also something to offer, and it works, and things like that. And that's the way it is. Like, just imagine this like times 10, like applying it to multiple people.
Yeah, everyone has flaws. No one is perfect, even if they look great on social media. And the successful people are there because they've put in the work, but also they have bad days, and they have really bad work too. And like there were moments that they did a terrible job at something. So if you're there, like just know that it happens to everyone. And whenever you feel like those thoughts of doubt and like self-deprecation, use that as fuel to get you to the place that you need to be, whether it's like practicing your skill or working on your confidence or like finding a support group or whatever it is that you need. Just don't let it consume you, but instead use that to
fuel you.
Yeah, and like to make a change or grow.
Yeah, just normalize a lot of things too. Don't take things so seriously, I guess. Like everyone's got their own hang-ups, and we can keep repeating this over and over again, but yeah.
Thanks for watching,
and we'll see you next week.